She doesn't even pay rent, Camilla said loud enough for the entire kitchen to hear, but quiet enough to pretend it was just a joke. She was peeling the label off a wine bottle sitting at the counter like she owned the place. My mother chuckled, not looking up. My brother Chase opened the fridge, then pointed at me with the neck of a beer bottle. "You've been here long enough, Lauren," he said. "I mean, it's not like this place is yours." That's when I realized it. They thought I was just still here, just lingering, just a shadow in the home I had kept alive for years. The kitchen still smelled like the rosemary chicken I had cooked for Dad's birthday 2 months earlier. The stain on the ceiling was still there from the plumbing leak I fixed myself because no one else called the contractor. The spice rack was still in alphabetical order, because I put it that way. But none of that mattered, not to them. Let me rewind. My name is Lauren Pierce. I'm 32. I've lived in this house just outside Seattle for most of my adult life, not because I couldn't afford to leave, but because my father had a stroke when I was 23. My mother, well, we'll get to her. My brother Chase is 2 years older. He left for Austin the day after college graduation, full ride, full ego. We barely heard from him for years. No birthdays, no hospital visits, just the occasional happy holidays mass text with a photo of some overpriced dinner. Camilla, his wife, is the kind of woman who introduces herself with her job title. Brand strategist at an agency no one's heard of. Every sentence ends like a tagline. She married Chase 2 years ago. I wasn't invited to the wedding. And my mother Janelle is complicated. She used to be the kind of person who ironed bed sheets and knew all the neighbors, but somewhere between Dad's illness and Chase's promotions, she got tired. Of effort, of empathy, of me. That afternoon, we had just returned from my father's funeral. I had picked out the casket. I had coordinated the flowers. I had printed his photos, laid them on boards. I had written the obituary. I had dressed him. Chase arrived late, of course, with Camilla in white sneakers and a statement scarf. He gave me one of those 2-second hugs men use to avoid any real emotion. Then he went straight to the fridge. And now here we were. They laughed. They poured wine. They talked about clearing space. My mother pulled the sleeves of her sweater down over her hands. She didn't say a word to me. Until she did. "Lauren," she said, her voice low, "maybe it's time you found a place of your own. You've done enough here. And Chase and Camilla, they need room to grow." I looked at her, and I swear for just a second I thought she looked relieved. I didn't plan to stay. Not originally. When Dad had his stroke, I was in my final year at UCLA. I'd just accepted an offer from a design firm in New York, one of those live-in-the-office, die-with-a-title kind of places. I was scared, but I was proud. Then the call came. They found him on the kitchen floor. He had tried to make coffee. Half the mug was still sitting in the microwave. I flew home that night. The job offer went quiet. I told them I'd start a little later than expected. That was 9 years ago. The doctor said recovery would be slow, but possible with help. He needed someone to track his meds, drive him to rehab, manage appointments, prepare meals. Mom said she couldn't handle all that and offered to find a part-time caregiver. She hired someone who came twice a week for 2 hours. The rest fell to me. I thought it was temporary. A month, maybe 3. Then winter came, and I was still there folding towels, checking blood pressure, reading every article I could find about post-stroke cognitive therapy. Mom would come home from her Pilates class, drop her bag, and ask why the soup wasn't ready. She never asked how his blood pressure was, or if I'd eaten. I took on small contract work from home. UX consulting, wireframes, accessibility audits. It wasn't much at first, but I kept at it. Little by little, it grew into something real. By the time I was 27, I had enough clients to register my own agency, Horizon Flow Design. I worked from the upstairs study. Dad would sit near the window in his recliner watching the birds while I answered client emails and edited prototypes. He used to joke, "You're building skyscrapers on a laptop." I liked that. Around year 4, the bills started piling up. Dad's physical therapy wasn't covered by insurance anymore. Mom's savings had dwindled, though she still managed to get her hair colored every 3 weeks and meet her friends for $40 lunches. So I stepped in. I began contributing $3,000 a month. Utilities, groceries, prescriptions, maintenance. Even my mom's credit card minimums when they got out of hand. No one asked me to. No one thanked me either. One evening, Dad asked if I regretted it. Staying, giving up the job in New York. He said it gently, eyes soft, voice slurred from the stroke. Did you stay for me? Or because you had nowhere else to go? I told him the truth. I stayed because you were the only one who saw me. He nodded, then handed me a plain manila folder from the nightstand. It was the house deed, signed, notarized, dated the year before. I didn't want Chase to have it, he said quietly. He left. You didn't. I never told my mother, or Chase, or anyone. It felt private, not like a secret, but like something too tender to speak aloud. And besides, I thought maybe one day they'd see the years I poured into this place. The quiet years, the ones with the medication charts, the bathtubs cleaned with vinegar, the taxes filed at 2 a.m., but they didn't. They only saw me still living here, like I had never left. Would they have looked at me differently? If they had ever truly looked at all. The last time I saw Chase before the funeral, Dad was still walking on his own. It was Thanksgiving maybe 6 years ago. He'd flown in for 48 hours, brought a bottle of overpriced wine, and a girlfriend whose name I've forgotten. He smiled through dinner, scrolled through his phone during grace, then left before we'd even finished dessert. He didn't call when Dad had his second stroke. He didn't show up when Dad lost the ability to speak. And when I sent a group text 3 years ago, Dad's in the hospital. It's serious. Chase replied with a thumbs-up emoji. That was it. But 3 months before the funeral, he called. Not to ask about Dad, not to check on Mom, not even to say hello. Hey, he said, Camilla and I are doing this villa wedding thing in Portugal. It's all coming together. Super classy. We're thinking, maybe Dad could help us out with I don't know, $75, maybe $80, no. Thousand. I had him on speaker. I looked at Dad sitting quietly in his recliner, the left side of his face drooping, eyes tired, but still tracking the sunlight through the window. I didn't answer. Mom did. She leaned against the kitchen counter, twisting a gold ring around her finger. He's getting married, Lauren, she whispered. That's a big deal. It could be, a new start. Grandchildren. A reason to come home. I stared at her. She hadn't said grandchildren when I'd missed 3 birthdays to take Dad to rehab. She hadn't said new start when I launched my agency from the upstairs hallway. Just now, for Chase. Later that night, Dad asked me if Chase was coming home. He's always been a charmer, he said the words slow, thick. But charm only gets you so far. I smiled, but inside, something buckled. Chase had always been effortless. All-state swim team, Stanford, job offers before graduation. He was the one people asked about. How's your brother? Never. How are you? I don't think Mom meant to make it so obvious. But when she started saving clippings of wedding venues when she casually mentioned helping them get on their feet, I knew. She was going to give him something. Money. The house, I wasn't sure, but she'd already made the decision. Her son was back. And I was whatever I had always been. 3 weeks before Dad died, a letter arrived, addressed to Mr. and Mrs. Chase Pierce. Camilla had taken his last name before the wedding even happened. Inside was a brochure for a honeymoon package in Bali. Booked, paid, non-refundable. The same week, Dad's blood pressure spiked and I had to cancel 3 client meetings to get him to the ER. Chase didn't know. He didn't ask. He just sent a picture of the villa with a caption, "Can't wait to be back home soon. Hope it's still standing. LOL. It was standing because I was still holding it up. The wake was held in our living room. Dad didn't want anything fancy. No church, no procession. Just people stories and Sinatra on the stereo. So that's what I gave him. I spent the night before ironing the tablecloths, printing out old photos, arranging lilies in the vase he used to knock over every Christmas. By noon, the house was full. Neighbors, old co-workers, the pharmacist who used to give us discounts. Even Mr. Levin from down the street, who hadn't spoken to anyone since his dog died, showed up with a bowl of egg salad. Everyone had a story about Dad. Most were about how kind he was. Some were funny. One made me cry. Chase arrived an hour late. Camilla came in first, wearing a cream-colored wrap dress and wedge heels. Chase followed in a navy suit that looked like it had never been buttoned. They waved, kissed cheeks, smiled like it was a fundraiser. Then Camilla said loud enough for the front hallway to hear, "So, when's the will reading?" The room fell quiet. I looked at her. She shrugged. "Sorry. Just, with everything going on, it'd be helpful to know what's what. You know." Mom didn't flinch. In fact, she smiled. "Oh, I'm sure everything will sort itself out," she said, then glanced at me. "Lauren's been here a while. I'm sure she understands it's time to move forward." Forward. Like Dad's death was a formality. Chase helped himself to the charcuterie platter I had arranged 2 hours earlier. He ate while leaning over at crumbs falling onto the countertop. Then he said, "Place looks good, Laure. You've done your part. Now we'll take it from here." Camilla wandered toward the fireplace, ran her fingers along the mantel like she was inspecting a hotel suite. "Would love to redo this wall. Maybe knock it out. Open the space up." I didn't speak. I couldn't. I just looked at my mother sitting in Dad's recliner. She didn't blink. Didn't defend me. Didn't even acknowledge I was in the room. A few guests started to leave early. Mr. Levin offered me a gentle pat on the shoulder. The pharmacist whispered, "You did a beautiful job," and I stood there surrounded by flowers and finger food and the faint scent of Dad's aftershave on the armchair, while my brother and his wife picked apart the home I had kept breathing. I cleared the plates. They didn't notice. Camilla poured more wine. Chase laughed at something on his phone. Mom said nothing. That night they had a party. Not a real one. No invitations or streamers, but the kind of gathering where the people laughing forget why they're supposed to be quiet. There were takeout boxes stacked on the kitchen counter. Sushi. Fancy. The kind Mom used to say was too rich for our budget. Now she was drinking white wine with Camilla giggling about wedding colors. Chase sat on the arm of the couch, scrolling through vacation rentals on his iPad. I passed through the living room with a trash bag in hand. No one looked up. "Hey, Laure," Chase said, not glancing over. "You mind grabbing more drinks and maybe some snacks? Camilla's starving." Camilla didn't deny it, just smirked. I stood there for a moment, then I turned toward the hallway, went upstairs, closed the door. I didn't cry. I didn't even speak. I just opened my laptop, logged into my bank's online portal and started clicking. Cancel auto pay for power. Cancel internet service. Pause grocery delivery. Unlink my card from Mom's Amazon. Disable the household expense account I'd set up 3 years ago when Mom forgot how to pay the water bill on time. Each click felt like a stitch being removed. Carefully. Deliberately. Without anesthetic. At 7:42 the next morning, the lights in the house shut off. At 7:45, I heard the unmistakable sound of my mother's heels clacking down the hallway. "Lauren, did the power go out? What's going on?" I was charging my phone. I didn't respond. She kept talking. "And the Wi-Fi's not working. Did you call someone?" I turned to face her from the top of the stairs. "No, I canceled it." She blinked. "What do you mean I mean? You asked me to leave, so I've stopped paying for everything." She stared at me, lips parting, but no sound coming out. Chase wandered in behind her, holding his phone like it had betrayed him. "The hell is going on with the internet?" "It's gone," I said. "So is the grocery account, and the electric, and the maintenance fund." Camilla appeared in the hallway barefoot and annoyed. "Are you serious? It's freezing in here." I looked at all three of them, and for the first time in a very long time, none of them had anything to say. By noon, the house was quiet. No Netflix, no heat, no snacks. No Alexa telling Camilla the weather in Lisbon. I stayed in my room. I answered a few client emails, changed the billing address on a few documents, looked at flight prices, not really searching, just considering. Then there was a knock on my door. Mom, not with rage, not with apology, with confusion. "Lauren," she said, voice softer now. "I think we need to talk." We sat in the dining room. She folded her hands like she was in church. "There's been a misunderstanding," she began. "We didn't mean to push you out. You've been helpful, but things are changing. I said nothing. So she continued. There's still Dad's inheritance, the house. We should probably talk about how to divide things fairly. I raised an eyebrow. Divide what? She blinked. The estate, the property. I mean, obviously the house. The house isn't yours to divide, I said flat. It hasn't been for 2 years. Her face changed, like someone blew out a candle behind her eyes. What do you mean? I reached into the drawer by the fridge, pulled out the manila envelope Dad had given me, set it on the table. This is the deed. Transferred to my name, signed, notarized, April 14th, 2 years ago. She didn't move, didn't even reach for it. Chase entered, then rubbing sleep from his eyes like a teenager late for class. You guys done, because we're kind of freezing out there. And I held up the envelope. This house is mine. Has been. You're living in it because I let you. You're eating because I paid for it. And you're here because I haven't asked you to leave. Camilla followed in behind him. Wait. What? You heard me, I said, standing now. All this time you thought I was crashing on a couch I couldn't afford. You mocked me. Laughed. Told me to leave. I looked at Mom. You told me it was time to go. So I am. The silence was longer this time. Chase finally sat down. Like his legs forgot how to stand. You mean this was your house? All along, yes. And you just never said anything. Did you ever ask? Camilla shook her head in disbelief. What about the bills? All those payments, every dollar since Dad got sick. I kept this house running. Quietly, because that's what Dad needed. Mom opened her mouth, then closed it. Her fingers traced the edge of the envelope, but never touched it. Why would you keep that from us? She finally whispered. Because I knew this day would come. They didn't speak after that, not because they accepted it, but because for the first time in years they realized they'd been living in something they couldn't own. Not with money, not with titles, not with charm. I made the call that night. My cousin Elena, a real estate agent in Bainbridge, answered on the second ring. Hey, I said, I need you to list the house. Quietly, there was a pause. Then, are you sure I'm done? I said, and I don't want to leave a key behind. The next morning I made eggs and toast, for myself. I sat at the table where Dad used to read the paper-sipped coffee from the chipped mug with his favorite baseball team on it. Outside, the yard was still. Camilla's rental car sat in the driveway like it had nowhere to be. Mom came into the kitchen. No makeup, no earrings. Just her. Bare. You're really selling the house? She asked. Yes. Where will you go? Somewhere warmer. She hesitated, then sat across from me. Folded her hands like the night before. Lauren, I know I haven't always shown it, but we're still a family. Chase made mistakes. I did too, but you're our daughter. I didn't look at her. I just said, you don't miss me. You miss what I did for you. She flinched. That's not fair. It's honest. Chase tried later, slid a note under my door. Just 4 words. Don't do this, Lore. I left it on the hallway floor. By Friday, I had a flight booked to Santa Fe, a small adobe rental near the edge of town. Quiet, bright, with a studio big enough to work in and windows that faced the sunrise. I packed light, 2 suitcases, a folder of tax records, my father's watch. As I zipped the last bag, Mom called out, "Can we talk one last time?" I paused at the top of the stairs, looked down at her. She wasn't crying. She wasn't begging. Just watching me. I met her eyes. You didn't lose me, I said. You gave me away. Again and again. I just finally stopped returning. And then I walked past her. The door didn't slam. It just closed. 3 months later, the house sold. Full asking price. No contingencies. Closed in 12 days. Elena said it was one of the smoothest transactions she'd handled. I told her that made sense. The hardest part had already happened. I didn't tell anyone where I was going, not officially, but I knew they'd figure it out eventually. Chase would Google the real estate records. Mom would call Elena. Camilla would scroll my LinkedIn looking for clues. Let them. By the time they connected the dots, I was already halfway across the desert. Santa Fe was warmer than I expected. The kind of warm that sits in your bones, not just on your skin. I found a little adobe house near the ridge. It had sun-bleached tile and no dishwasher. I didn't mind. I bought a cactus. Hung Dad's old baseball cap on the doorknob. Started each morning with coffee and silence.